The first thing I heard was the snap of a twig, a sound as sharp and final as a breaking bone. I froze, my breath crystallizing in the frigid air. The woods at midnight were never silent, but this was different. This was a predator's mistake. My heart, a frantic drum against my ribs, screamed at me to run. But my feet, rooted to the frosted earth, knew better. Running triggers the chase. Little did I know, the chase had already begun. Another crackle closer, to my left. I turned my head slowly, every muscle screaming in protest. The moon, a bloated silver coin, filtered through the naked branches, painting the forest in monochrome shadows. That's when I saw the eyes. 2 points of molten gold, low to the ground, unblinking. They held an intelligence that was not animal, not entirely. Cassandra. The voice came from behind me, deep and graveled, vibrating through the cold air and into my spine. I whirled, a gasp tearing from my throat. He stood 10 feet away, a silhouette carved from the darkness itself. He was massive, shoulders blocking out the moonlight, his presence a physical weight that pressed the air from my lungs. He wasn't dressed for the cold, just a dark t-shirt and jeans, yet he didn't shiver. Steam, faint and ghostly, wisped from his skin. "You shouldn't be here," he said. His voice wasn't angry. It was a statement of cold, hard fact, laced with a tension that made the fine hairs on my arms stand erect. I was just walking," I managed, my own voice thin and reedy. A pathetic defense. No one just walked in Blackwood Forest after sundown. Not unless they had a death wish or a secret. The golden eyes to my left shifted, and a wolf the size of a small bear melted from the shadows. Its fur was the color of storm clouds, its muzzle streaked with silver. It didn't growl. It just watched, its gaze flicking between me and the man. "Walking," the man repeated, taking one slow, deliberate step forward. The ground didn't seem to crunch beneath his boots. In my territory, on the full moon. That was my first mistake. Coming here tonight. But the restlessness, the strange, crawling energy under my skin had driven me out. I'd felt pulled, like a compass needle swinging wildly north. He moved again, and a sliver of moonlight caught his face. He was younger than his voice suggested, maybe late 20s, with a jawline that could cut stone and eyes the color of a winter sky, a pale, fierce gray. His dark hair was tousled, as if he'd been running. His name came to me on a whisper of instinct, of dread. "Owen, Alpha." "I didn't know it was your territory," I said, taking a step back. My heel caught on a root and I stumbled. He was there in an instant. Not running, just there, his hand closing around my upper arm to steady me. The contact was an electric shock. Heat, immense and shocking, radiated from his touch, searing through my jacket. A low, involuntary sound escaped me. His gaze snapped to mine, and his pupils dilated, the gray all but swallowed by black. His nostrils flared, and for a second his grip tightened, his fingers pressing into my flesh like a brand. A rumble came from the giant wolf. A warning. Owen's eyes cleared, and he released me as if burned, taking a full step back. A muscle ticked in his jaw. "You need to leave." "Now, what are you?" The question was out before I could stop it, born of a lifetime of seeing things I shouldn't, of feeling out of place in my own skin. His expression shuddered, becoming impassive, carved from ice. "The thing that will kill you if you don't turn around and never come back." A new voice cut through the tension, smooth as oiled silk and twice as cold. "Trespasser, Owen." And on such a sensitive night. Another man emerged from the trees opposite the wolf. He was lean where Owen was broad, all sharp angles and predatory grace. His hair was reddish-brown, and his smile didn't reach his cold green eyes. He moved with a silent, unsettling confidence, his gaze raking over me with clinical interest. This, the wolf's posture said, was the enemy. Jack, Owen said, his voice dropping into a growl. The air thickened, charged with a hostility so potent I could taste it, copper and pine. This doesn't concern you, doesn't it? Jack's smile widened. A human smelling of fear and something else in the heart of our shared borderlands on the full moon. That concerns the Ridge Pack greatly. Your leniency is noted. His eyes locked on me. What's your name, little rabbit? Don't answer him, Owen commanded, shifting his body subtly, placing himself between Jack and me. The protective gesture was at odds with his earlier threat. The wolf at his side let out a soft snarl, lips peeling back from teeth like ivory daggers. Cassandra, I whispered, my name sounding like a confession. Jack's head tilted. Cassandra, a seer's name, can you see your fate tonight? He took a step forward, and the forest seemed to darken around him. Owen's pack has rules, mine has appetites. Owen's form seemed to swell in the moonlight. A sound like a deep crackle of settling logs in a fire emanated from him. Touch her and the ceasefire is ash. You know the law, Jack. First claim on neutral ground. First claim, law, my mind spun. The words were archaic, terrifying. Claim, Jack laughed, a dry, humorless sound. She's a stray, a juicy piece of bait. I say we see which pack she runs to. A little sport before the main hunt. His green eyes gleamed. Run, Cassandra! The giant wolf, Owen's wolf, lunged forward with a thunderous roar, but it was a feint. Jack didn't flinch. He just kept smiling at me. Run. Adrenaline exploded in my veins. I ran. I crashed through the underbrush, branches whipping at my face, the thunder of my own heartbeat deafening in my ears. Behind me, I heard it, the sickening, visceral symphony of change. A guttural snarl that was half-human, the wet, tearing sound of fabric, the unmistakable crack-crack-pop of bones realigning. A howl tore through the night, full of rage and dominion. It was Owen's voice, and yet not. Then another howl answered, higher, more frenzied. Jack, I didn't look back. The world narrowed to the pounding of my feet and the burning in my lungs. The forest became a blur. I could hear them behind me, the heavy, swift footfalls of massive bodies, the panting breaths. They were playing with me, hurting me. I burst into a small clearing and skidded to a halt. Two more figures stood there, a man and a woman, silhouetted by the moon. Trapped. The woman stepped forward. She was beautiful, with wild, dark curls and eyes that held a weary kindness. Whoa, easy, she said, her hands up. I'm Sienna, this is Evan, we're with Owen. The man, Evan, was younger, with a nervous energy. He sniffed the air, his eyes widening. Sienna, her scent. I know, Sienna said, her eyes never leaving me. Cassandra, you need to come with us right now. Jack's wolves are circling. I'm not going anywhere with you, I panted, backing up. You don't have a choice. Evan snapped, his head jerking towards the trees. They're coming, and if Jack gets you, it won't be quick. A chorus of howls erupted, closer than ever from all sides. The sound was jubilant, cruel. Sienna's face hardened. Owen claimed you on the field. That means you're under the protection of the Blackwood Pack until sunrise. But that protection is thin out here. We have to get you to the den. Claimed me, I'm not a piece of land. No, a new, ragged voice growled. Owen stepped from the tree line. He was shirtless, his chest heaving, long scratches torn across his torso that were already knitting closed before my eyes. His jeans were ripped. His eyes blazed with that same winter fire. The giant wolf, his wolf was gone. You're more than that. He stalked towards me, and the air hummed with the same electric pull I'd felt when he touched me. It was a physical ache, a thread yanking behind my sternum, trying to draw me to him. I fought it, trembling. What did you do to me? I demanded, my voice shaking. He stopped an arm's length away. The scent of him, wilderness, cold air, and something darkly metallic washed over me. Nothing, yet. His gaze was locked on mine, intense, searching. That pull you feel, that's the problem. You should not feel that. You're human. She's not just human, Owen, Evan interjected, his voice tense. Her scent is it's all wrong. It's like human and then something buried, and on top of it all, she smells like. Quiet, Owen snarled, not looking away from me. His confusion mirrored my own. Jack will use the chaos of the run to cross the border. We move, now. He reached for me again. This time I didn't flinch. When his hand wrapped around mine, the connection was a jolt of pure, undiluted heat. A vivid, impossible image flashed behind my eyes. A silver wolf with eyes like mine, running under a blood-red moon. I gasped. Owen stiffened, his eyes widening. What did you just see? Before I could answer, a figure dropped from the branches of a large oak at the edge of the clearing, landing in a crouch. Jack. He was also shirtless, his body lean and corded with muscle, a fresh, bleeding bite mark on his shoulder. He smiled, his teeth very white. A touching reunion, but the run's not over, little rabbit. The rules say you have to make it to claimed territory. He looked at Owen, his green eyes glinting. And this clearing is still neutral ground. From the shadows around us, more pairs of glowing eyes appeared, amber, yellow, hellish red. Jack's pack. 5, 6, 7 wolves. Sienna and Evan shifted instantly, their bodies contorting in a blur of sound and motion, clothes shredding. In their places stood 2 wolves, one dark as soot, Sienna, one tawny and sleek, Evan. They positioned themselves at my flanks, Owen didn't shift. He pushed me behind him, his back a solid wall of heat. The claim is made, Jack. She is under my protection. A claim can be broken, Jack purred. By blood, by choice. His gaze slid to me over Owen's shoulder. Come with me, Cassandra. I can smell the wildness in you buried deep. My pack doesn't cage its beasts. We set them free. Owen would have you on a leash, a pretty pet for his perfect pack. I can give you the truth. I can give you your real first shift. His words slithered into my brain, finding the secret fear I'd carried for years. The feeling of something wrong and wild trapped inside my bones. How could he know? Owen trembled with the effort of holding his human form. A low, continuous growl vibrated from his chest. Her answer is no. I wasn't asking you, Jack said softly. Then he spoke directly to me, his voice dropping into a hypnotic cadence. You feel it, don't you? The moon singing in your blood, the crackle in your teeth. It's not sickness, Cassandra, it's a gift. He's afraid of it, afraid of you. Don't listen to him, Owen gritted out, but his tension spiked. He was afraid, not of Jack, but of me. The pull towards Owen was a fever in my blood. But the curiosity, the terrifying allure of what Jack promised, the explanation for a lifetime of strangeness, was a siren song. The wolves closed in, a tightening circle of fur and fang. Choose, Jack whispered, his arms open. The cage or the wild. Owen half-turned, his stormy eyes desperate, pleading in a way that seemed to wound his pride. Cassandra, please. My heart hammered against my ribs, a trapped bird. The eyes of both packs were on me. The full moon hung overhead, a silent, judging witness. I looked at Owen, at the undeniable, terrifying connection that had sparked to life the moment he touched me. I looked at Jack, at the promise of a brutal, unfettered truth. I opened my mouth to speak. That was the moment the ancient, buried thing inside me finally stirred, awakened by the moon, the fear, and the scent of 2 rival alphas. A pain, white-hot and exquisite, lanced up my spine. My bones gave a deep, internal creak. Owen's eyes flew wide with pure, unadulterated shock. No! Jack's smile became a grin of triumph. And I knew, with a certainty that shattered my world, that whatever I was about to say no longer mattered. Because my skin was beginning to tear. The pain was a living thing, a wild, scrabbling creature trying to claw its way out of my skin. Jack's words, "Your real first shift," echoed in my skull, a dark promise that felt terrifyingly like a truth I'd spent a lifetime running from. If only I had known the touch of an alpha could awaken a sleeping beast. Owen's hand was still on my arm, a brand of heat against the icy fire spreading through my veins. His gaze, locked with mine, was a storm of confusion and raw, possessive fury. "Look at me," he commanded, his voice a low growl that vibrated in my bones. "Don't listen to him, breathe." But I couldn't breathe. My lungs were too small. The world was too loud, the rustle of every leaf, the pounding of 4 separate heartbeats, Owen's, Jack's, Sienna's, Evan's, the whistle of the wind through pine needles. It was a symphony of chaos. "She's not listening to you, Blackwood," Jack taunted from across the clearing. He took a deliberate step closer, his movement causing Sienna to snarl, a deep, rumbling sound that shook the ground beneath my feet. "Can't you smell it? The change is on her. It's in the air, sweet and sharp, like lightning about to strike." "You forced this," Owen spat, not turning from me. His thumb stroked my wrist, a gesture that was both soothing and a claim. "Pushing an unawakened one on a full moon, that's not sport, Jack. That's butchery. I merely accelerated the inevitable." Jack's smile was all teeth. "She was a bomb waiting for a fuse. I just lit the match." A fresh wave of agony rolled up my spine, and I cried out, my knees buckling. Owen caught me, pulling me against his chest. His scent, pine, frost, and something fiercely wild, wrapped around me, a temporary anchor in the maelstrom. His heartbeat was a frantic drum against my ear. Thump, 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 thump. "Evan," Owen barked, his voice tight. "The den, now, Sienna, your rear guard." "You think you can outrun the moon, Owen?" Jack laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "The law says the claim holds until sunrise, but the law doesn't account for her shifting before then, does it? What happens to an unaffiliated wolf born on neutral ground, in the middle of 2 packs? The implication hung in the air, colder than the night. The tension spiked, a physical wire pulled taut. Evan, the tawny wolf, whined low in his throat, his amber eyes wide with a fear that wasn't for himself. Owen's arms tightened around me. "We're leaving." "I don't think so." Jack's voice lost its playful edge, dropping into a tone of pure alpha authority. The forest itself seemed to hush. "You're wounded. Your pack is outnumbered. My betas are in the trees, Owen. They have been since you took the girl. You're surrounded." The revelation hit like a physical blow. Shadows at the edge of the clearing shifted, resolving into the sleek, powerful forms of 2 more wolves, one a mottled gray, the other a rusty red. They emerged silently, eyes glowing like embers. Ridge pack. Sienna and Evan instantly moved, placing themselves back to back, forming a bristling, snarling circle around Owen and me. The growls that tore from their throats were promises of violence. Owen went very still. I could feel the calculation racing through him, the weighing of options in a scale already tipped against us. His wound, the one Jack had given him, was a weakness he couldn't afford. "Let us pass, Jack," Owen said, his voice dangerously calm. "This doesn't have to be a war." "It already is," Jack replied, taking another step. The gray and red wolves mirrored him, closing the circle. "It always has been. She's just the prize that makes it finally worthwhile." The pain in my body was morphing, the scraping claws becoming a frantic, fluttering energy. My bones ached with a strange, hollow feeling. My senses dialed higher. I could smell the damp earth beneath the frost, the metallic tang of Owen's healing blood, the aggressive, musky scent of the ridge pack wolves. I could hear Jack's slow, confident breathing, and beneath it all I heard something else. A whisper, a call. It came from the deepest, darkest part of the woods, away from both packs. It was a silent song of wild freedom, and it resonated with the chaos in my blood. A part of me, a part I'd never acknowledged, wanted to answer. "No," I whimpered, unsure if I was rejecting the call or the transformation. "Cassandra," Owen murmured into my hair, his lips brushing my temple. The contact sent a jolt through us both. "Fight it! You are in control, it's your body." "She doesn't have to fight it," Jack crooned. "She just has to let go. Come to me, little wolf. I'll show you what you are. I'll give you the moon." His words were a key turning in a lock. The fluttering energy coalesced into a surge of power. A crack echoed in the clearing, not from the trees, but from inside me. My shoulder joint popped, a blinding, white-hot realignment. I screamed. The sound was torn from me, raw and guttural. Owen's hold on me broke as I convulsed, falling to the frozen leaves. The world tilted, blurred. I saw Owen's face above me, etched with a horror that mirrored my own. I saw Jack's triumphant grin. I saw the wolves, all frozen for a split second, witnessing the forbidden act. A first shift on contested land. What happened next changed everything. As my body rebelled, a new sense exploded outward. It wasn't sight or sound, but a knowing. A map of power and intent painted itself behind my eyes. I could feel Owen's strength, a solid, towering oak of will, but with a crack of pain running through its base. I could feel Jack's, a slick, oily serpent of ambition and cunning. I felt Sienna's steadfast loyalty, a shield of granite. Evan's nervous courage, a flickering, bright flame. And I felt the two ridge betas. The gray wolf was patience, a stalking panther. The red wolf was hunger, a sharp, unsated blade. The sensation was so overwhelming, so utterly alien that my human mind recoiled. In that moment of psychic overload, my physical transformation stuttered, the agony receding to a throbbing ache. I lay panting on the ground, half-twisted, human but fundamentally altered. My eyes met Owen's. He was staring at me with a look of utter shock. "What?" he breathed. "What was that?" Jack's triumph faltered, replaced by sharp curiosity. "What did you do, darling? That wasn't a shift." I didn't know. I had no words. I had felt the fabric of their beings. Owen seized the moment of confusion. With a speed that belied his injury, he moved. But not towards Jack. He dropped to my side, his body covering mine in a protective crouch. He didn't touch me. Instead, he tilted his head back and howled. The sound was not like the earlier challenges. It was a complex, rising cry, filled with urgency, command, and a specific, piercing resonance that cut through the night. It was a summoning. Before the last note faded, answering howls erupted from the depths of Blackwood Forest. Close, many of them. The ground seemed to tremble with their approach. Jack's face darkened. "Calling for the whole pack, Owen. Breaking the border truce for real. You broke it the moment you set your betas on my claimed one," Owen roared, rising to his feet. The authority in him was now magnified, a king standing his ground. "You have 3 seconds to retreat to your side of the ridge. My pack is coming. Your 2 betas against my entire pack. Choose." The calculus of power had flipped. The mottled gray and rusty red wolves looked to Jack, uncertainty in their postures. The approaching howls were a thunderous wave, getting nearer with every second. Jack's eyes darted from Owen to me, a furious calculation in their depths. The prize was slipping away, and the cost was skyrocketing. He offered me one last, lingering look, a promise and a threat. "This isn't over, Cassandra," he said, his voice silky. "You've had a taste. You'll come looking for the rest, and I'll be waiting." With a sharp jerk of his head, he signaled his wolves. They melted back into the shadows as silently as they had arrived. Jack took a few steps backward, his gaze locked on Owen. "Sunrise isn't far, Blackwood. The law still stands. And she's something new, something that doesn't fit in your neat little pack order." Then he turned and disappeared into the forest. The absence of his oppressive presence was immediate. The clearing felt lighter, but the air was still charged with the aftermath and the impending arrival of the Blackwood pack. Owen didn't relax. He kept his position between me and the direction Jack had vanished. Sienna and Evan finally broke their defensive stance, their wolf forms slumping with exhaustion. The tawny wolf, Evan, shifted. The process was swift, a blur of melting fur and reshaping bone. In moments, a young man with tousled, tawny hair and worried eyes knelt where the wolf had been. He was breathing heavily. "Alpha, your side?" "It's fine," Owen cut him off, though a fresh stain of blood was spreading on his torn shirt. His attention was solely on me. "Can you stand?" I tried. My limbs felt like water, my joints loose and strange. I managed to push myself up onto my elbows. The world swam, the new sense now a dull, confusing hum at the edge of my perception. I think so. What did I do? What was that?" Owen exchanged a grim look with Evan. "I don't know, but we can't discuss it here." The thunder of approaching wolves crescendoed. From the trees surrounding the clearing, wolves poured in. 5, 6, 7 of them, all sizes and colors, their eyes glowing like a constellation of fallen stars. They fanned out, securing the perimeter, noses to the wind. The largest, a massive wolf with a pelt of pure shadow, padded directly to Owen. It was the giant wolf from before. It nudged Owen's wounded side, a soft woof of concern. "I'm okay, Kale," Owen said, placing a hand on the giant wolf's head. He looked back at me, his expression unreadable. "We need to get to the den. Now, can you walk, or do I need to carry you?" The offer, so practical yet so intimate, sent a new kind of shiver through me. I can walk. It was a lie, and he knew it. My legs trembled as I forced myself to my feet. I took one step, then stumbled. Owen was there in an instant, his arm around my waist, taking my weight without a word. His strength was immense, solid. The connection between us flared again, that electric pull, now underscored by the echo of the strange power I'd unleashed. "Evan, Sienna, with us," Owen ordered. "Kale, lead the way, full defensive formation." The giant wolf, Kale, took point. The rest of the pack fell in around us, a living, breathing shield of fur and muscle. We moved, not as a run, but as a swift, purposeful retreat deeper into Blackwood territory. The forest closed around us, the trees seeming to lean in, protective. For a long time, there was only the sound of our passage. The crunch of paws and feet on frost, the rustle of undergrowth, the rhythm of labored breathing, mine and Owen's. The moon tracked us through the skeletal branches, a relentless eye. After what felt like an hour, Evan, walking beside us in human form, broke the silence. His voice was hushed. "Alpha, her scent, it's different now. It's not just human with potential. It's layered. Like ozone after a storm, and old parchment, and wild sage. I've never smelled anything like it." Owen inhaled deeply near my hair. I felt him stiffen. He had confirmed it. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice small. "It means," Owen said, his tone heavy with a dawning, troubling realization, "that Jack was right about one thing. You're not just a latent werewolf, Cassandra." He looked down at me, his eyes reflecting the fractured moonlight. "You're something else. And I have no idea what claiming you has just dragged my pack into." The trees parted ahead, revealing the mouth of a large, well-concealed cave system nestled into a rocky hillside, the Blackwood Den. Light flickered from within, casting long, dancing shadows. It promised shelter, but as we crossed the threshold, the weight of countless watching eyes fell upon me. The packed earth of the den floor was cool beneath my feet. In the firelit cavern, shifted werewolves in various states of dress paused in their activities, all turning to stare at the alpha and his strange, trembling charge. Owen led me to a quieter alcove lined with furs, helping me to sit. He crouched before me, his gaze searching. The shift, it's paused. The moon's influence is still strong, but that burst of whatever it was, it disrupted the process. "Is that good?" I whispered. "I don't know," he admitted, a rare vulnerability in his confession. "But it bought us time until sunrise. Once the claim is solidified by law, we can figure this out." From the main chamber, a strong female voice called out, "Owen, you're bleeding, and you've brought a complication." A woman emerged from the shadows. She was tall, with severe features and silver-streaked black hair braided tightly back. She carried an air of quiet, undeniable authority. Her eyes, a sharp, intelligent gray, swept over me, missing nothing. My disheveled state, my fear, the strange energy still clinging to me like static. "Lena," Owen acknowledged, standing. "This is Cassandra. She is under my claim." Lena's nostrils flared as she scented the air, her brow furrowed. "So I smell. I also smell Ridge blood, panic, and—" She paused, her gaze locking onto mine. "A power signature that has no business being here." She took a step closer, ignoring Owen's subtle shift to block her. "What are you, girl?" Before I could stammer a reply, a young, frantic wolf, a yearling with a sandy coat, burst into the alcove, shifting mid-stride into a teenage boy. "Alpha, sentries report. Ridge Pack forces are mobilizing. They're not attacking, but they're lining their entire side of the border, every single wolf. Jack is making a show of it." The den fell utterly silent. All eyes turned to Owen, then to me. Lena's voice was a razor in the quiet. "He's not giving up at sunrise, Owen. He's declaring his intent for her." She folded her arms. "You've claimed a mystery that has just become the spark for a war. The law might give her to us at dawn, but it won't stop him from trying to take her back." Owen looked from Lena's stern face to my terrified one. The weight of his pack, of the impending conflict, settled on his shoulders. The cliffhanger of my transformation was over, only to plunge us into a deeper, more dangerous abyss. He reached out, his fingers gently brushing a strand of hair from my face. The touch was infinitely tender amidst the brewing storm. "Then we prepare for war," he said, his voice low and final. "But first, we find out exactly what she is. Because if we're going to fight for you, Cassandra, we need to know what we're fighting for." He turned to Lena, his expression hardening into that of the alpha. "Get the historian, and bring the oldest pack lore we have. We start at the beginning." Lena nodded, but her eyes stayed on me, filled with a deep, unsettling suspicion. As she moved away, she muttered words that chilled me to my core, words that promised the next chapter would hold not just fear, but ancient, buried secrets. "Start at the beginning," Lena whispered, just loud enough for me to hear. "Let's hope, for all our sakes, that her beginning isn't our end." The sound of the den's heavy hide curtain falling shut behind them was the only thing that finally broke the screaming tension in Cassandra's veins. If only that sound could block out the sentry's words, still echoing in the cavernous space. "The whole Ridge Pack is mobilizing. They're lining the border. War, because of her." Owen's command to Lena hung in the smoky air. "Get the historian. Bring everything we have on whatever she might be." His voice was gravel, strained from the summoning howl and the weight of the threat. The main chamber of the Blackwood den was a far cry from the wild forest. Firelight danced across smooth stone walls, casting long, shifting shadows that felt like watching ghosts. The air was warm, thick with the scent of pine, smoke, wolf, and a strange, metallic undercurrent she now knew was her own. Pack members in human form emerged from shadowed alcoves, their eyes, all shades of gold and amber, fixed on her with a mixture of curiosity and deep-seated wariness. The giant wolf, Kale, nudged Owen's shoulder, a low whine in his throat. "I'm fine," Owen muttered, though the tear in his shirt was still dark with blood. He didn't take his eyes off Cassandra. "Lena, now—" The severe woman gave a sharp nod, her gaze sweeping over Cassandra like a physical assessment. "This will wake old ghosts, Alpha, one some would rather leave buried." Without another word, she turned and vanished down a narrow tunnel. The reaction from the gathered pack was immediate. A murmur rippled through them. Evan, now back in human form and pulling on a pair of trousers, ran a hand through his tawny hair. "Old ghosts, what does that mean?" "Her scent is, it's not just latent, it's other." "It doesn't matter what it is," Sienna said, appearing beside him with a blanket which she offered to Cassandra. Her voice was softer, but her eyes were hard. "It matters that Jack smells it too, and he's bringing his entire pack to our doorstep for it." Cassandra took the blanket, her fingers numb. The warmth of the fire didn't reach her. She felt like a specimen, a catalyst. "I'm sorry," she whispered, the words utterly inadequate. Owen crossed the space in 3 strides, his movement causing a hush. He stopped close, but didn't touch her. The proximity alone sent that confusing, electric pull arcing between them, a live wire amidst the dread. "Don't," he said, his voice low for her alone. "You didn't ask for this, but what happened in that clearing, Cassandra, what was that?" She looked up into his storm-gray eyes, seeing her own terrified reflection in them. "I don't know, it was like everything just opened up. I could feel you. Your pain, your resolve. I felt Jack's greed, his cruelty. I felt Sienna's loyalty and Evan's confusion. It was all just truth, and then it was gone." She shuddered, wrapping the blanket tighter. It hurt. Before Owen could respond, Cale let out a soft growl, his massive head turning toward a smaller entrance. A young man, breathless and with eyes still glowing faintly from a recent shift, hurried in. The sandy-haired yearling from the border. "Alpha," he panted. "They're holding position, but they're howling. A challenge chorus. Jack's at the front. He's demanding parley. At the border stone. At dawn." The chamber went dead silent. The crackle of the fire was suddenly deafening. Parley. A formal meeting between alphas under a temporary truce. But at dawn, mere hours away. It was a trap. Everyone knew it. Owen's jaw tightened. "He wants to see how weak I am. He wants to see her." "You can't take her," Evan blurted out, then flinched as Owen's gaze snapped to him. "I mean, it's what he wants. A clear shot, on his terms. If I don't, he claims breach of tradition and has all the justification he needs to attack," Owen countered, his mind racing. "And if I go without her, he claims I've hidden his rightful pack member and have something to hide." He slammed a fist against the stone wall, a sharp, cracking sound that made Cassandra jump. "He's boxing me in with our own laws." What happened next changed everything. A wave of dizziness hit Cassandra, not from fear, but from a sudden, invasive sensation. It was a faint echo of the clearing, but focused, sharp. She gasped, her hand flying to her temple. She didn't just hear Owen's frustration. She tasted it, coppery and hot. She felt the pack's collective anxiety like a swarm of bees against her skin. And beneath it all, from the direction of the tunnel Lena had taken, she felt a new, chilling presence, ancient, dusty, and thick with dread. "Owen," she choked out. He was at her side in an instant, his hand on her arm. The contact was a grounding shock, diluting the psychic noise. "What is it? Is it happening again?" "No, not like before. It's whispers." She looked toward the dark tunnel, her heart hammering. "Something's coming from where Lena went. It's old, and it's afraid of me." Before he could question her further, footsteps echoed from the tunnel. Lena reappeared, her face paler than before. Behind her shuffled an elderly man, leaning heavily on a gnarled staff. His back was bent, but his eyes, when they lifted to Cassandra, were a clear, piercing blue, devoid of the wolfish glow. Elias, the historian, and behind him, carried reverently by a stern-faced warrior, was a large, iron-bound chest, its surface etched with faded symbols that made Cassandra's vision swim to look at directly. The pack parted for them, a silence of profound respect and apprehension falling. Elias stopped a few feet from Owen and Cassandra. He didn't greet his alpha. He stared only at her, his nostrils flaring as he took in her scent. A long, trembling moment passed. Then he spoke, his voice like dry leaves crumbling. "You have brought a storm into our den, Owen Blackwood." He shifted his gaze, his blue eyes boring into his alphas. "You asked for the oldest lore, the tales we tell only to alphas and their heirs in whispers by dying embers. The warnings about the times when the moon sings to more than just wolf blood." Lena gestured, and the warrior set the heavy chest down with a thud that echoed in the silent chamber. Elias knelt before it with a creak of joints, his fingers tracing the symbols. "For generations, we have kept this, a record of the anomalies, the ones who are not human, but are not wolf, the ones who walk the line and see the strings that bind us all." He opened the chest. The scent that wafted out was of time, decay, and something ozone-sharp, like after a lightning strike. Inside were not books, but artifacts. A twisted piece of silver that seemed to writhe in the firelight, a bundle of black feathers tied with sinew, stones with natural holes through their centers, and scrolls of brittle-looking hide. Elias lifted a scroll, handling it as if it were a live coal. He unrolled it slightly, revealing intricate, hand-drawn symbols and stark, unsettling illustrations. The names for them are lost or forbidden. Some packs called them oracles, others witches of the blood, most just called them the unseen. They are rare, so rare most believe them myth. Cassandra's blood ran cold. Oracle, witch, unseen. Each word felt like a label slapped onto a mystery she'd lived with her entire life. The sense of being different, of feeling too much, of the strange occurrences that followed her. "What are they?" Owen demanded, his grip on Cassandra's arm tightening unconsciously. "They are the moon's other children," Elias intoned, his eyes locked on Cassandra. "They do not shift, they perceive. They feel the pack bonds, the territorial magic, the intent of the heart. In ancient times, it is said they guided packs, helped them find balance, warned of treachery from within or without. Their connection to the fabric of our world is psychic, not physical." He paused, his next words dropping like stones. "But that perception is a double-edged sword. In a latent, one whose nature has been suppressed and is now awakening, it can be volatile, uncontrolled, a beacon." "A beacon," Sienna repeated, the horror dawning on her face. "To what?" Owen's voice was deadly quiet. Elias finally looked away from Cassandra, his aged face grim. "To anything with the sense to smell power. Their awakened presence is a ripple in the world we inhabit. It can draw rivals. It can draw other things. And in times of tension, between packs on the brink," he gestured vaguely toward the border, "it can become the spark that ignites the war, a prize to be captured or a threat to be eliminated." The revelation slammed into Cassandra. She wasn't just a cause for war. She was the kindling. Her very existence, now awakening, was a signal fire Jack had seen from miles away. He didn't just want a new pack member. He wanted a weapon, a tool of perception. Owen released her arm, stepping back as if the truth had physically struck him. He looked from the ancient scroll to Cassandra's terrified face. "Can it be controlled? This perception." "That knowledge is lost," Elias said, shaking his head. "The last recorded mention of an unseen in any pack lore is from over 2 centuries ago. The story does not have a happy ending. The pack that sheltered her was torn apart from the inside by jealousy and fear, and she was taken by a rival." They were all destroyed in the war that followed. A heavy, suffocating despair filled the chamber. The pack's wary looks now held an edge of outright fear. She was no longer just an unknown. She was an omen of destruction. Cassandra felt the walls closing in. The weight of their stares, the weight of centuries of bad history, the weight of Owen's silent, stunned processing. It was too much. The psychic whispers surged. Evan's spike of "get it away from us," Lena's cold calculation of risk versus pack safety, the yearling's pure, unadulterated terror. She stumbled back, a low moan escaping her lips. "Stop, please, stop looking at me like that." The plea broke Owen's paralysis. "Everyone out," he commanded, his alpha voice brooking no argument. "Now, except Kale and Elias." The pack dispersed swiftly, silently, melting into the tunnels. Sienna gave Cassandra one last, complex look before following. Soon, only the 5 of them remained in the vast, fire-lit chamber. Owen, Cassandra, the watchful giant wolf Kale, the stern Lena, and the ancient historian. Owen paced before the fire, the shadows leaping around him. "Dawn, Parley, Jack knows. He might not have the old lore, but he senses what she is. He'll use the Parley to provoke me, to get me to break the truce first, or to demand her as a neutral arbiter of some twisted kind." He stopped, facing Cassandra. "That perception, in the clearing, could you do it again, on purpose? If you could read Jack at the Parley, know his true move before he makes it." "No," Elias croaked. "Alpha, you cannot ask this of her. An untrained, unseen, under threat in a formal Parley. The feedback could shatter her mind. Or it could lash out like it did in the clearing, a psychic blast that would be an act of war in itself." "What other choice do I have?" Owen roared, the sound echoing. "I have a pack to protect, a border lined with enemies who want what's under my protection. I need an advantage." "I am not your advantage." The words tore from Cassandra's throat, raw and loud. The sound of her own voice, filled with a pain and anger she didn't know she possessed, shocked her into silence for a beat. "I am not a weapon for you to wield. I'm a person. I'm scared and I'm lost, and everyone is talking about me like I'm a bomb or a prize." She was shaking, tears of frustration finally spilling over. "You claimed me. You said mine." Was that just another way of saying Blackwood property? Owen flinched as if struck. The raw hurt in her words cut through his alpha pragmatism. Kale whined, pressing his head against Owen's side. Lena watched, her expression unreadable. "Cassandra," Owen began, his voice strained. "No," she whispered, wiping angrily at her tears. "You need to decide, Owen, right now, before dawn. Am I the person you feel that pull toward, or am I just the unseen you have to manage? Because I can't be both. I won't survive it." The ultimatum hung in the air, more daunting than the threat of Jack's entire pack. It was a question of heart versus duty, of the mysterious bond against centuries of ominous history. Owen opened his mouth to answer, but a new, urgent sound cut through the tension. Not a howl, but a series of sharp, rapid barks from outside the den. A distress pattern. A sentry's alarm. Kale's head snapped up, a growl rumbling in his chest. Lena was at the entrance in a flash, pulling the hide aside. The sandy-haired yearling was there, shifted back to human, his chest heaving. "Alpha, the Parley site, the border stone. Someone's there now, a single wolf. They left a message." Owen's eyes turned to glacial chips. "What message?" The yearling swallowed, his gaze darting to Cassandra, then back to his alpha, terror in his young eyes. "It's a challenge, but not for you, Alpha, for her." He held out a trembling hand. In his palm lay a single, perfect black feather, identical to the ones in the ancient chest. Tied to it with a strand of leather was a small, rough piece of parchment. Owen snatched it, unfolding it. The message was short, scrawled in what looked like charcoal. He read it, and the paper crumpled in his fist. The look he turned on Cassandra was one of pure, unadulterated horror. What? Cassandra breathed, the dread of physical ice in her stomach. What does it say? Owen's voice was hollow, the sound of a foundation cracking. It says, "The unseen is seen. The oracle is called. Send her to the stone alone by midnight, or we will show your pack the true meaning of hunting in the dark." He looked at the black feather, then at Elia's horrified face. "It's not from Jack." The fire popped loudly in the utter silence. Lena finished the thought, her voice a bare whisper. "If it's not from the Ridge Pack, then who else is out there watching?" And from the dark mouth of the tunnel leading deeper into the den, where the ancient chest lay open, a cold draft whispered out, carrying with it the faint, ozone-sharp scent of storm and feathers. The black feather lay on the stone floor like a fallen star, a void against the firelight. Its arrival had stolen the breath from the den. An unknown third party, a demand, midnight. The words echoed in the silence, louder than any growl. Cassandra stared at it, the psychic echo of its touch, cold, ancient, and deeply curious, still whispering at the edges of her mind. The pack's fear, a sour, metallic taste in the air moments before, had now curdled into something colder. Dread. They weren't just afraid of her, they were afraid of what she'd summoned. Owen broke the stillness. His movement was a whip crack. He snatched the feather from the ground, his fingers tightening around the veins. "Where?" he demanded of the sandy-haired yearling, his voice a low rumble that vibrated in Cassandra's bones. The main border stone, Alpha," the young wolf stammered, still in human form, shivering from more than the cold. "Scratched into the moss beside it, the words, and this just lying on top." "What words?" Lena's voice was sharp, cutting through the young sentry's panic. He swallowed, reciting with terrified precision. "The unseen walks. Bring her to the standing stone at the heart of the old grove by midnight. She comes alone, or the veil tears for all to see." A collective inhale. Elias, the historian, paled further, his hand trembling as he pointed a bony finger at the feather in Owen's grip. That is a mark of the old covens, before the Great Schism, before the packs drove them into myth. They were said to treat with ravens. "Witches," Sienna breathed, the word a taboo in the tense air. "Not witches as humans fear them," Elias corrected, his eyes locked on Cassandra. "Custodians, those who walked between the seen and unseen worlds. If she is one of the unseen, they would know. They would feel her awakening like a bell." Owen's gaze swung to Cassandra, a storm of conflict in his gray eyes. The Alpha weighing strategy, the man reeling from her ultimatum, the protector seeing a new, shadowy threat. "You're not going anywhere." "It says she comes alone," Evan said, his practical tone strained. "It's a trap, obviously." "Or a test," Lena countered, her arms crossed. Her suspicion of Cassandra had now found a terrifying new focus. "They know lore we've forgotten. They left this here, a feather matching our oldest relics. This isn't Jack's blunt aggression. This is a different game, one we don't know the rules to." Cassandra felt the walls of the den closing in, the weight of their stares, the suffocating press of their fear and speculation. The strange power inside her, the one that had flared to push Jack back, stirred uneasily. It wasn't a wolf. It was a lens, a tuning fork. And right now, it was resonating with the dark promise of that feather. What happened next changed everything. Because I spoke, and for the first time, it wasn't from fear. "They already see me," she said, her voice quiet but clear. It cut through the debate. "You're all arguing about what to do with the prize, but the prize is listening. And the prize has questions." Owen flinched, her earlier words, "See me as a person," hanging between them. She stepped toward him, ignoring the way Sienna and Evan subtly tensed. "This power, this unseen thing, I feel it. It's like hearing a hum no one else can, Right now, I can feel your anger, she said to Lena, whose eyes widened. I can feel Evan's calculation, Sienna's protective instinct coiled like a spring. I felt Jack's greed like oil on water. She looked directly at Owen. And I feel you, a war inside you. Duty pulling you one way, and something else, pulling you another. The den was utterly silent, save for the crackle of the fire. If these custodians know what I am, maybe they have answers. About why I'm like this, about how to control it. You want to use me as a weapon at dawn. Fine. But a broken weapon is useless. Maybe I need to understand the forge it came from first. It's a trap, Cassandra, Owen said, but his protest lacked its usual force. The Alpha was listening. Everything since I met you has been a trap. The words burst from her, fueled by a week of terror and confusion. The full moon was a trap. Jack's words were a trap. Your claim was a trap. My own body is a trap. At least this is a trap that admits what it is. They're asking, not taking. Kale, the giant wolf who was Owen's shadow, let out a soft woof, nudging Owen's hand. The communication was silent but clear. She has a point, Lena scoffed. And when they ask her to stay with them, when they offer her the truths we cannot, she is a strategic asset, Owen. Letting her walk into the dark is madness. Keeping me ignorant is what's mad. Cassandra shot back, the psychic pulse in her voice making the torch flames dip. She took a steadying breath. You have until midnight. You can tie me up, hide me in the deepest part of this cave. But the demand was made. If I don't come, they promise the veil tears. What does that mean, Elias? The old man looked stricken. In the lore, the unseen could, if provoked or unprotected, broadcast their presence. Not just to nearby packs, but widely. Like lighting a beacon on a hill for every predator in the forest. It could draw more than the ridge pack. It could draw things older, hungrier. The consequence settled like a physical weight. Not going wasn't an option. Owen's jaw worked. He looked from the feather to Cassandra, to his pack's fearful faces, then to the dark tunnel that led to the outside world. The tension peaked, a wire stretched to singing tightness. We go, he said, the words final. But not alone, and not to their chosen ground. If only I had known then that his compromise would be the spark, that by trying to protect, he would provoke. The forest at night was a different beast. The journey to the borderlands was a silent, grim procession. Owen, Kale, Sienna, and Evan moved in wolf form, shadows among shadows. Cassandra, guided by Owen's nudge, walked in their center, the black feather tucked into her belt, a morbid invitation. Lena and two other warriors brought up the rear, human, armed with silver-tipped stakes that gleamed dully. Cassandra's new senses were overloaded. The forest sang with life, with intention. She felt the sleepy consciousness of owls, the skittering fear of mice, the ancient, slow thoughts of the trees. And she felt the pack bonds around her, silver threads of loyalty, tension, and fear that connected each wolf to Owen, and a thicker, more turbulent cord that connected Owen to her. It was warm and terrifying. They halted 100 yards from the standing stone in the old grove, a place even the packs avoided. It was a clearing dominated by a single, towering monolith of weathered granite, etched with markings that predated memory. The moonlight here seemed colder, whiter. This is far enough, Owen's voice came, rough from his recent shift back to human form. He wore only trousers, his torso bare and marked with the fading scars of his fight with Jack. You don't go to the stone. We draw them out here, to the edge. They said alone, Cassandra whispered, the grove's silence feeling like a held breath. They'll understand the message of a pack at her back, he said, his hand briefly, fiercely, gripping her shoulder. You are claimed, Cassandra, by me. That means something even to ghosts. He melted back into the trees with Kale. Sienna and Evan flanked her, hidden but present. She was the bait, the beacon, and the hope. The minutes ticked by. The chills seeped into her clothes. She focused on the hum inside her, trying to listen beyond the forest, beyond the pack. She heard them first. Not a sound, but a silence. A pocket of absence where the forest song simply stopped. Then, a whisper of thought, cool and smooth as river stone. You brought a audience little spark. That was unwise. From the far side of the standing stone, 3 figures emerged. They did not walk. They seemed to coalesce from the moonlight and shadow. 2 were tall and severe, dressed in dark, simple garments, their hair streaked with silver. They flanked a 3rd, a woman who appeared neither old nor young. Her hair was the black of the feather, her eyes the gray of a winter sky. She held a staff of gnarled wood, capped with a stone that held a faint, inner luminescence. No wolves, no aggression, just profound, unsettling stillness. "Where is Jack?" Owen's voice roared from the tree line, breaking the eerie quiet. "Is this his new play, hiring human witches?" The central woman smiled, a small, pitying thing. "The ridge alpha barks at shadows. He senses the change but knows not what it is. We are not his. We are the caretakers of the veil. And you, Alpha Owen, are making this difficult." One of the tall figures, a man, spoke, his voice like dry leaves. "The invitation was for the unseen. The pack tether you cling to is a noise, a distraction. It will get her killed and you along with her." Cassandra found her voice. "You know what I am." "We know what is awakening," the woman corrected, her gaze pinning Cassandra. It was a physical pressure, a gentle probing at her mind. "The who is for you to discover. You are an oracle of the blood, a seer of bonds, a feeler of truths. Your awakening at the full moon, amidst rival alphas, has lit a signal fire. Every pack with an old memory will begin to feel it. Jack is just the first and the crudest." "What do you want with me?" Cassandra asked, the question tearing from her throat. "To offer a choice," the woman said. "Come with us. Learn to shield that brilliant mind. Learn your history, your purpose. Or stay with this pack, where you will be a weapon first and a person never. Your untrained light will draw war to their doorstep until nothing remains." "She is under my protection," Owen growled. Stepping out from the trees, came a massive, silent threat at his side. "Your choice is an abduction. You have no claim." "We have the claim of kinship," the woman snapped, her composure slipping for a flash of fierce passion. "She is our lost daughter, not your fanged pet. You think to use her sight at your parley tomorrow, to see Jack's lies. The moment she actively uses her gift in conflict, the veil will thin. It will be a clarion call." Evan and Sienna slipped from the shadows, forming a loose circle. The tension was a live wire, thrumming in the cold air. The caretaker woman looked at Owen with something like sorrow. "You love her already. The bond tells me so. It is why you are so blind. Your love will be the death of her." Owen froze. The word love hung in the air, a shocking, undeniable truth he hadn't dared voice. In that moment of stunned silence, the man with the leaf voice raised a hand. He didn't attack. He simply gestured toward the bond thread Cassandra could see in her mind's eye, the thick, turbulent cord between her and Owen. And he plucked it. The sensation was catastrophic, a psychic screech of wrongness. Cassandra cried out, doubling over as if gut-punched. Owen roared, clutching his chest, his alpha aura flaring wildly. The pack wolves whimpered, disoriented. "Stop!" Cassandra screamed. "We are showing you," the woman said calmly as the man lowered his hand. The bond settled, but now felt raw, exposed. "Your connection to him is a beacon. To hide you, we would have to dampen it. Sever it for a time. It is the only way." Owen was panting, fury and pain in his eyes. "You touch her again, and I will tear your world apart." "You lack the tools," the woman said dismissively. She focused on Cassandra. "Midnight approaches. The choice is yours. Walk with us now into the unseen paths, and we will teach you to hide, to control, to be who you are. Or stay and bear the consequences of his claim. Cassandra looked at Owen, saw the raw fear in his eyes, not for his pack, but for her. She saw the pack, poised for a fight they didn't understand. She felt the truth in the caretaker's words. She was a danger to them all. But she also felt the bond, ragged but real. It wasn't just a claim. It was a tether to her own humanity. She began. A new sound sliced through the grove. A howl, but not from the Blackwoods. It was a derisive, challenging chorus from the east. Ridge pack, close, too close. The caretaker woman's head snapped up, her gray eyes flashing. He followed your noise. The crude one arrives. Jack's voice, loud and triumphant, echoed from the tree line beyond the stone. Owen, I knew you couldn't resist a midnight stroll with my prize. And you brought guests. How interesting. Torchlight flickered between the trees. Jack emerged, flanked by his two betas in wolf form, the mottled gray and rusty red beasts. His eyes swept over the scene, taking in the strange caretakers, the tense Blackwoods, and Cassandra in the middle. A vicious grin spread across his face. A parley before the parley, and it seems my little hidden wolf has even more secrets. His gaze landed on the black feather at Cassandra's belt. His grin faded, replaced by a look of primal recognition and avarice. Oh, this is better than I dreamed. You're not just a latent wolf, you're that. The stories are true. He took a step forward, his focus entirely on Cassandra, ignoring Owen's snarling warning. Forget the pack, girl. Forget this weak alpha. What they offer is chains. I can give you a throne. With your power and my strength, we wouldn't just rule a pack. We'd rule them all. The clearing was now a three-way standoff. Blackwoods to the west, caretakers at the stone, Ridge pack to the east, and Cassandra, the unseen, at the center of it all. Owen moved, placing himself directly between Jack and Cassandra. You violated the ceasefire, Jack. The parley is at dawn. The rules changed, Jack sneered, his eyes glowing amber in the torchlight. The prize is too great. I'm claiming her now by right of challenge. He pointed at Owen. For her, right here, right now. It was the ultimate provocation. A direct alpha challenge. Not on neutral ground at dawn, but in this cursed grove at midnight. The caretaker woman sighed, a sound of profound irritation. Beasts, she muttered. She looked at Cassandra, a final, urgent plea in her eyes. This is the consequence. Choose now. Cassandra's heart hammered against her ribs. The psychic noise was deafening. Owen's protective fury, Jack's greedy hunger, the caretaker's cold urgency, her pack's fear and readiness to... Owen turned his head just slightly, his gray eyes meeting hers. In them, she didn't see a weapon. She didn't see a prize. She saw a man begging her to stay, even as he prepared to die for her. If only I had known my choice wouldn't end the war, but begin the true battle. She opened her mouth to speak, and the standing stone behind the caretakers began to glow with the same faint light as the stone on the woman's staff. The ancient markings pulsed. A low, subsonic hum vibrated the very ground, rising up through the soles of their feet. Everyone froze. From the glowing markings, shadows deeper than the night began to leak. They pooled on the ground, twisting, forming into shapes, vague, wolf-like but wrong. Silhouettes with too many joints, eyes that were pits of starless dark. They were drawn to the conflict, to the potent mix of alpha rage and unseen fear. The caretaker woman paled, true fear in her eyes for the first time. The veil, it's fraying. Here, now, your conflict is feeding them. The shadow creatures, silent and cold, turned their void-like gazes upon the clearing, upon the wolves, upon her. The man with the leaf voice shouted, Oracle, your light, you must shield it. But it was too late. One of the shadows, swift as thought, lunged not at Cassandra, not at the alphas, but at the closest source of simple, vulnerable life. The sandy-haired yearling who had delivered the feather, standing guard at the tree line. It passed through him. He didn't scream. He simply ceased. His body collapsed, unharmed but empty. His eyes were open, blank, his pack bond extinguished like a snuffed candle. A moment of horrific, silent comprehension. Then, Jack's beta, the rusty red wolf, snarled and attacked the shadow that had killed the boy. Its claws passed through the darkness uselessly. The shadow enveloped the wolf, and it too fell, a hollowed-out shell. Real, primal terror exploded. The cliffhanger wasn't a choice. It was an arrival. The war wasn't between packs anymore. As chaos erupted, Owen shouting orders, Jack howling in rage and retreat, the caretakers raising their staffs against the leaking dark, Cassandra felt it. A pull. Not from the shadows, but from the standing stone itself. A deep, resonant call that matched the hum in her blood. The monolith's glow intensified, focusing into a narrow beam that fell directly on her. And the oldest of the shadow creatures, a towering form with antlers of twisted void, slowly turned its head. It spoke, not in sound, but directly into the heart of her mind, with a voice that tasted of forgotten graves and static. "Found you." The shadow, crowned with antlers of void, fixed its hollow gaze on Cassandra. The scream died in her throat, replaced by a psychic shriek that echoed not in the clearing, but in the space between minds. "Mine," it hissed, a soundless word that bloomed like frost in her soul. What happened next changed everything. The world fractured into a chaos of sound and fury. The male caretaker threw his hands out, not toward the physical creature, but toward the fraying tapestry of the veil itself. A silent, concussive wave of will slammed into the antlered shadow, not dispelling it, but pushing it, straining against its advance. "Hold the line," the caretaker leader commanded, her voice cutting through the panicked snarls of wolves. Owen moved. He didn't shift, there was no time, but shoved Cassandra behind him, his body a solid wall between her and the advancing darkness. "Blackwood, to me!" His alpha command was a roar that momentarily steadied the pack. Sienna and Evan, already in wolf form, closed ranks. Their lips peeled back in silent snarls at the insubstantial threat they couldn't physically bite. Jack, however, saw not just a threat, but an opportunity. His eyes, gleaming with avarice, flicked from the shadow to Cassandra, then to Owen. The formal challenge still hung in the air, but the battlefield had changed. "You see, Owen," Jack yelled over the growing wind that seemed to emanate from the stone itself. "This is what she brings. Not power, annihilation. Give her to me. My pack can secure her. We can use this." "You'd use a key to unlock a flood and call it strategy," the caretaker leader spat, her attention divided between the veil and the rival alpha. "She comes with us. It is the only way to mend what is being torn." Cassandra's head pounded. She could feel it all, Owen's ferocious protectiveness, a hot, golden anchor. The pack's fear, sharp and silver. Jack's greedy, cold calculation. The caretaker's focused, desperate strain like a hum of taut crystal. And the shadows, they were hunger. A bottomless, silent hunger that sought the very light of their spirits. The antlered being pressed against the male caretaker's psychic barrier, and with every push, Cassandra felt a corresponding tear in her own mind. Crunch, a sickening, dry sound, like bones breaking in deep earth. One of the smaller shadows darted past the defensive line, a streak of living darkness. It flowed over a ridge-pack beta, the mottled gray wolf who had been flanking Jack. The wolf's snarl turned into a choked yelp, then silence. It collapsed, not bleeding but utterly empty, its fur gone dull, eyes like dusty glass. A collective howl of rage and terror went up. The ceasefire vaporized. "Jack, you fool, call your wolves!" Owen bellowed, but it was too late. Panic had its own momentum. The Ridge pack, seeing their packmate fall to an unseen horror, reacted on instinct. Some lunged toward the Blackwood lines, seeking a tangible enemy. Others turned on the shadows, swiping uselessly with claws that passed through smoky form, only to be engulfed themselves. The clearing became a slaughterhouse of silence. Wolves fell not with bloody wounds, but as desiccated husks. The air grew cold, so cold it burned the lungs. "We cannot hold here," the male caretaker gritted out, a trickle of blood seeping from his nose. "The veil is rupturing. We must retreat and contain." Owen's hand found Cassandra's wrist, his grip iron. "We fall back to the den. Now," he met the caretaker leader's eyes. "You want to protect her, then help us get out of this." The leader gave a sharp, reluctant nod. "To us, form a circle." The two attendant caretakers moved, their postures shifting. They began a low, rhythmic chant, not words but tones that made the air vibrate. A faint, shimmering dome of light, wan and flickering like a dying bulb, began to form around their immediate group, pushing the creeping shadows back an inch. The reprieve was fragile, but it was a chance. "Kale, Sienna, Evan, fighting retreat," Owen ordered. The giant wolf, Kale, chuffed and began herding the younger Blackwood wolves, snapping at the Ridge pack wolves to disengage from their futile attacks. Jack, seeing his forces being decimated by the moment, finally roared for order. "Ridge pack, to the tree line, disengage." His eyes, burning with fury and thwarted ambition, locked onto Cassandra as he backpedaled. "This isn't over, Oracle. You belong to the strong, and I will be the one standing when this night is done." They moved, a desperate, huddled knot of power and fur. The caretaker's shimmering dome moved with them, the male caretaker straining, his face pale. The shadows, particularly the large, antlered one, paced just outside the light, pressing in wherever the glow wavered. Cassandra could feel its focus on her, a relentless psychic pull. Come, be still, be empty. The forest, once a place of hidden life, felt dead. The sounds of the night were gone, swallowed by the void. All she could hear was panting, the crunch of leaves underfoot, and the eerie, silent dissolution of any creature, animal, or wolf, too slow to escape the spreading darkness. If only I had known the true cost of my own nature. After an eternity of stumbling, terrified retreat, the rocky outcrop that concealed the Blackwood den came into view. The sight of the familiar, hidden entrance was a sob caught in Cassandra's chest. The caretaker's dome flickered violently as they passed over the den's threshold. The ancient wards of the pack's home offering a secondary, reinforcing layer of protection. The shadows swirled at the entrance, but did not immediately follow, repelled by the combined energies. Inside the main chamber, chaos reigned. Wolves shifted back to human form in gasps of pain and shock. Lena was already there, barking orders, her face grim as she saw the state of the returning group and the strange new arrivals. "Report," Lena demanded, her eyes sweeping over the pale, chanting caretakers and the traumatized pack. "The veil is torn at the standing stone," Owen said, releasing Cassandra's wrist but staying close. "Entities voids that consume spirit. Jack's pack is decimated. He survives." He nodded to the caretakers. "They provided a shield. They call themselves the caretakers of the veil." Lena's suspicion was a tangible force. "And the cost of their aid." The caretaker leader, lowering her hands as the protective dome settled into a faint glow against the den walls, spoke wearily. "No cost you would understand, Wolf. Only the necessity. The girl is an oracle. The rupture is tied to her untrained awakening. It must be sealed, and she must learn to control the beacon she has become." Cassandra found her voice, raw and thin. "That thing, it wanted me. It spoke to my mind." "It senses your light," the leader said, her tone softening marginally. To them, you are a feast. To the wolves, you are a weapon or a curse. To us, you are kin. The choice is now unavoidable, child. Will you stay here, where your very presence draws the void and invites war? Or will you come with us to a sanctuary where you can learn to shield yourself and others? Owen stepped forward, his body tense. She stays under my protection. Your protection nearly got her consumed. The male caretaker snapped, wiping blood from his lip. Your rival knows what she is now. He will stop at nothing. And the shadows are drawn to the psychic turbulence she cannot help but emit. You are keeping a lit torch in a powder keg and calling it safety. The truth of it hung in the air, acrid and undeniable. Cassandra looked around the firelit chamber. At Evan, who wouldn't meet her eyes. At Sienna, whose protective stance was now edged with uncertainty. At Lena, whose gaze was pure, hard pragmatism. At Cale, the giant wolf who watched Owen with deep concern. And at Owen. His jaw was set, his shoulders broad, but in his eyes she saw the conflict raging. The alpha duty to his pack, the instinctual deep pull to her, the fear he would not name. "Owen," Cassandra whispered. The room quieted. "They're right." He flinched as if struck. "I felt it," she continued, her voice gaining strength with her conviction. "When it looked at me, I'm a hole in the world for those things, and Jack won't stop. As long as I'm here, your pack is a target for him and for the void." She took a shuddering breath. "I have to learn. I have to learn how to not be this." "No," Owen said, the word a low growl. "We face threats together. That is what a pack does." "She is not pack," Lena interjected, her patience gone. "Alpha, with respect, she is a catastrophe waiting to happen. The lore was clear. The unseen brought ruin. We have seen the ruin tonight. Our borders are compromised, our rivals empowered by knowledge, and now we face an enemy our claws cannot touch. Sending her away is not abandonment. It is survival." The word survival echoed. Owen's fists clenched. Cassandra saw the agony in his eyes, the tearing of his soul between love and leadership. The caretaker leader pressed gently but firmly. "There is a third option. A path between." All eyes turned to her. "The veil must be mended at the point of rupture, the standing stone. To do that requires an oracle's power, focused and guided. But the site will be watched. By the void, and undoubtedly by the Ridge Pack Alpha, who will seek to claim the prize he now understands is priceless." "What are you proposing?" Owen asked, his voice dangerously calm. "A pact, a temporary alliance. Your pack provides the physical defense. You are strong, you know the territory. You hold the line against Jack and his wolves and against any corporeal threat. We caretakers will provide the psychic defense and guide Cassandra through the ritual to mend the veil. Once it is sealed, the shadow threat recedes. Then Cassandra makes her final choice." Silence descended, thick and heavy. It was a desperate gamble. It required trust between factions that inherently distrusted each other. It put Cassandra at the very epicenter of the danger. But it was a plan. A thread of hope. "And if we agree," Owen said, his gaze piercing the caretaker leader, "she comes back hereafter for the choice. No tricks, no psychic coercion." The leader inclined her head. "You have my word as a custodian of the old ways. The choice will be hers, made with a clear mind." Owen looked at Cassandra. It was a question. It was a plea. She nodded slowly. "It's the only way. I have to fix what my awakening started." For a long moment, he just searched her face. Then he turned to his pack. "We prepare. Weapons, silver, torches. We fight a war on two fronts. Lena, coordinate the defenses. Cale, you're with me." His alpha authority was back, solid and commanding, but it was wrapped around a core of profound dread. The den erupted into controlled frenzy. As the pack scrambled, Owen pulled Cassandra aside into the relative quiet of his alcove. The sounds of preparation were a muffled backdrop. "Cassandra," he said, his voice rough. He cupped her face, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. "This ritual, do you trust them?" "I don't know," she admitted, leaning into his touch. "But I don't trust myself, and I trust you to watch my back." He rested his forehead against hers, a gesture of heartbreaking intimacy. "If anything tries to reach you, it goes through me, through all of us." He pulled back, his eyes fierce. "You come back, you hear me? You come back and you choose. And know this, whatever you choose, it doesn't stop what I feel. It never will." It was as close to a declaration as the chaos allowed. Before she could answer, a cry came from the tunnel entrance. "Alpha, movement at the tree line, ridge pack wolves gathering, and the shadows are thickening. They're moving this way." Time was up. The combined force moved out under a moon that now seemed like a cold, watching eye. The journey back to the Standing Stone was a silent, grim procession. The Blackwood pack flanked the group, weapons and teeth bared. The caretakers walked in a triangle around Cassandra, their presence a low hum of readiness. They reached the edge of the old grove. The scene was worse. The shadows had multiplied, swirling like a black fog among the trees. The stone pulsed with a sickly, violet light, and arrayed before it, in human and wolf form, was the remnants of the Ridge pack. Jack stood at their forefront, a cruel smile on his face. He held a strange, twisted blade that glinted with a non-silver light. "I knew you'd come back to the source," Jack called out, "bringing my prize right to me. And look, you've even brought the witches to wrap her up as a gift." Owen stepped forward, Cale a massive shadow at his side. "This ends tonight, Jack. Stand down." "It ends with me as the alpha who commands the oracle," Jack sneered. "Attack, take the girl, kill the rest." The Ridge pack surged forward with a howl. At the same moment, the swirling shadows coalesced, the antlered being at their heart, and drifted toward the stone, toward Cassandra. "Now!" the caretaker leader cried. "Blackwood, hold the line." Oracle to the stone. Focus on the fracture. The world exploded into violence. The clash of wolf against wolf, the snarls and cries of combat, filled the physical air. The caretakers raised their hands, and a new dome flickered into existence, this one focused just around the Standing Stone, a bubble against the psychic onslaught. The male caretaker engaged the antlered shadow directly. A silent, terrifying battle of wills that made the air crackle. Cassandra stumbled to the base of the monolith, the ancient rock cold under her palms. The fracture in the veil was a screaming wound in her perception. "What do I do?" she screamed over the din. "See the weave. See the pattern of the world," the leader instructed, her voice in Cassandra's mind. "Find the tear and pour your will into stitching it closed. We will feed you the pattern." A psychic image, complex and luminous, flashed in Cassandra's consciousness. The veil was like a luminous net, and there before her was a ragged, gaping hole through which the void poured. She reached for it with her mind, not knowing how. As she did, she was utterly exposed. A Ridge pack wolf, a hulking brute, broke through the Blackwood line, aiming straight for her. Owen, locked in combat with two others, roared in defiance but couldn't disengage. But Cale was there. The giant wolf intercepted the attacker mid-leap, his jaws closing on the wolf's throat in a brutal, decisive motion. He shook once, and the body went limp. He dropped it, standing guard before Cassandra, a mountain of fur and fury. She tried to focus. She pushed her awareness toward the tear, imagining golden thread, imagining repair. The violet pulse of the stone dimmed slightly. "Good," the leader encouraged. "More," but the effort was draining her fast. She felt lightheaded, the sounds of battle fading. She was vaguely aware of Owen, fighting with a ferocity that was beautiful and terrible, moving closer to her position. Jack, seeing his forces faltering and Cassandra vulnerable at the stone, made his move. He ducked under Evan's swipe, used a fallen log as a springboard, and lunged not at Owen, but past him, his strange blade aimed for the male caretaker, who was locked in psychic combat. If the caretaker fell, the shield would fall. Owen saw the trajectory. He had a choice: stop Jack and leave his flank open to the two wolves harrying him, or defend himself. He chose Cassandra. He turned his back on his own attackers, taking a deep, rending claw strike across his shoulders to throw himself into Jack's path. He caught Jack's wrist, the momentum driving them both to the ground. The twisted blade skittered away. The two alphas rolled, a tangle of fury, but Owen was already wounded. Jack gained the upper hand, his hands closing around Owen's throat. You lose her and your pack and your life. Cassandra saw it. She felt the surge of Owen's pain, his desperation, his unwavering love for her, a golden cord that snapped taut in her psychic sight. And in that moment, her fear crystallized into something else, into a furious, protective will. She didn't just see the tear in the veil. She saw the connections. The snarled, hostile red threads of the Ridge pack, the bright, fierce silver bonds of the Blackwood, the shimmering, intricate web of the caretakers, and Owen's cord, brilliant gold, linked to her heart. And she saw Jack's connection to Owen, a violent, choking black cord. With a scream that was both physical and psychic, Cassandra didn't reach for the veil. She reached for that cord. She poured all her terror, all her newfound power, all her love for Owen into one searing, psychic command. Release HIM. It was not a mend. It was a severance. Jack screamed, a raw, shocking sound. He convulsed, releasing Owen as if electrocuted, clawing at his own head. His connection to his own pack bonds flickered, frayed. For a moment, he was just a man, utterly alone and terrified on a psychic plane. The antlered shadow, sensing the massive surge of unshielded oracle power, turned from its struggle with the male caretaker. It abandoned the fight entirely. It flowed across the clearing, ignoring wolves and caretakers alike, a tsunami of silent hunger with one purpose. It was coming for her. Owen, gasping, saw it coming. He saw Cassandra, drained and pale, her hands still on the stone, completely defenseless. He saw the void creature, seconds away. He scrambled to his feet, but he was too far, too slow. Kale was closer. The giant wolf met Cassandra's eyes for a fraction of a second, an understanding, a loyalty that went beyond words. Then he turned, and with a earth-shaking roar, launched himself not at the shadow, but into its path, placing his massive body as the final, physical shield between the void and his alpha's heart. The antlered shadow did not slow. It enveloped Kale. There was no sound, no struggle. The giant, loyal wolf, Owen's steadfast companion and beta, simply vanished, not into light but into an absence. Where he had stood, there was nothing but a patch of cold, dead earth. And the shadow, momentarily solidified by the consumption of such a potent life force, kept coming, its hollow eyes now fixed, triumphantly, on the horrified, heartbroken Cassandra. Owen's scream of utter anguish shattered the night. To be continued. The scream that tore from Owen's throat was not human. It was the sound of a bond snapping, a heart being ripped from a chest, the death knell of a brother. Kale was gone, erased. Where his giant, loyal wolf had been, there was only a drifting, hungry darkness crowned with antlers, now turning its hollow gaze toward Cassandra. She felt it all. Owen's agony was a white-hot brand against her own soul. The pack's collective shock was a thunderclap of silence, but louder than all of it was the void in front of her, a psychic scream of endless hunger. It took a step, the ground freezing beneath its shadowy hoof. For you, it whispered into the silence of her mind. Come. No, Owen's cry was raw. He scrambled, half-shifted, claws tearing at the earth, but he was too far. The caretakers raised their hands, a shield of shimmering light flaring between Cassandra and the creature. The antlered shadow simply pushed through, the light dimming like a guttering candle. What happened next changed everything. It wasn't a choice. It was an instinct deeper than fear, older than reason. The power that had surged out of her to sever Jack's bond hadn't receded. It had coiled inside her, a live wire of grief and fury. Cale's empty space in the web of bonds was a wound. This creature was the knife. Cassandra didn't raise her hands. She looked at it. She saw it. Not just the shadowy form, but the countless, fraying threads of stolen life that composed it, the psychic hooks it used to anchor itself to this world. She saw the one attached to her, pulsing with invitation. "You are a door," it hissed. "Open." "I am a lock," she whispered back, her voice carrying in the sudden stillness. And she turned the key. It wasn't an attack. It was a reversal. She pulled, not on the physical world, but on the connection it had made to her. She yanked the line of its hunger back down its own throat. The antlered shadow creature shuddered, its advance halting. A sound like tearing silk and breaking ice filled the clearing. "She's engaging it directly," the male caretaker shouted, his voice strained. "Leader, she has no training, she'll be consumed." "She is not consuming," the caretaker leader breathed, her ancient eyes wide with a terrifying awe. "She is unraveling." Cassandra felt the cold. A cold so profound it burned. It flooded up the connection, seeking to freeze her soul. Images assailed her, endless dark, forgotten stars, the silent screams of everything it had ever eaten. Cale's final moment of defiant courage flashed among them. "No," she thought, clinging to that spark. "You don't get to keep him." She focused on that stolen spark of Cale's spirit, a tiny ember in the vast dark, and she pulled. She wrapped her will around it and wrenched it free. The shadow creature recoiled as if scalded. The ember, a faint warmth of loyalty and devotion, fluttered back into the web of bonds, settling not where it was, but into the space around Owen, a final, protective sigh. The creature shrieked, a sound that cracked the standing stone. But its cry was cut short. From the tree line, a guttural roar erupted. Jack, his eyes blazing with feral triumph, charged, not at the shadow, at Cassandra. In his hand was the twisted, non-silver blade. He saw her, distracted, vulnerable, a conduit of impossible power. "Mine!" he snarled. Owen moved. Grief was a fuel. He met Jack's charge in midair, a collision of muscle and fury. They hit the ground, a whirlwind of claws and teeth. The fragile alliance shattered into pure chaos. The remaining Ridge Pack betas, seeing their alpha engaged, surged forward. Sienna and Evan, with answering snarls, leaped to intercept them, the clearing dissolving into a brutal melee of wolf and man. The caretakers were under siege from two fronts. The lesser shadows, emboldened by their master's distress, swarmed their psychic shields, while they tried to maintain a protective circle around Cassandra, who stood frozen at the epicenter. She was trapped. The unraveling of the big shadow had taken something from her. She was cold, hollowed out. The physical world felt distant, muffled. She could see Owen and Jack tearing at each other, could feel Sienna's pain as a rusty wolf's teeth found her flank, could hear the caretakers chanting, their voices growing thin. But it was like watching a play through thick glass. The antlered shadow, wounded but enraged, solidified further. The temperature plummeted. Frost spiderwebbed across the stone. It took another step, and the ground didn't just freeze, it died, the grass turning to brittle ash. "Cassandra," Owen's voice, ragged and desperate, broke through her stupor. He had Jack pinned, his claws at the rival alpha's throat, but he was looking at her. "The stone, the ritual, finish it." The caretaker leader stumbled, a shadow's claw raking across her psychic form. She gasped. The pattern, the mending, you saw it, child, you must weave it now. The ritual, the mending, the beautiful, complex pattern of light she was supposed to knit into the tear in the veil. It was still there in her mind, but it seemed so small, so delicate against the roaring darkness in front of her. How could a stitch mend a canyon? If only she had known the truth. The ritual wasn't about the veil out there. It was about the veil within. Jack, seeing Owen's distraction, bucked violently and threw him off. He scrambled for his dropped blade. "Forget the ritual," he spat, blood on his lips. "That power is for taking. With it, no pack could ever stand against me. Against us." His eyes found Cassandra's, blazing with possessive madness. "I can give you your true place, a throne." His words were a poison, but they sparked a terrible clarity. He saw her as a thing to be used, a weapon. Owen saw her as something to protect, a burden. The caretakers saw her as a legacy to be controlled. A student. No one saw her. Cassandra. The woman who loved quiet mornings, who felt like a freak for 28 years, who was so tired of being claimed. The antlered shadow lunged. Not a step, but a teleportation of darkness, suddenly filling her vision, those antlers poised to impale. Time didn't slow. It crystallized. She didn't look at the pattern for the veil. She looked at the pattern of everything. The silver threads of the pack bonds, thrumming with fear and fury. The golden, intricate web of the caretaker's shared consciousness. The ragged, bloody cord of Jack's ambition. The howling void of the shadow creature. And her own thread, a vibrant, chaotic silver gold tangled in all of it. She was not a weaver. She was the loom. Cassandra stopped trying to push the power out. She stopped trying to control it. She let go. She opened herself, not as a door for the darkness, but as a channel for everything she was, everything she felt. The grief for Cale, the terrifying, undeniable pull toward Owen, the fury at Jack, the confusion toward the caretakers, the loneliness of a lifetime, the shocking, newfound strength. She didn't direct it. She simply released it, aiming not at the shadow, but at the tear in the world, the flaw in the pattern. A soundless detonation of light and will erupted from her. It had no color and all colors. It didn't strike the antlered shadow, it unmade it. The creature didn't scream. It came apart into its constituent threads of stolen life and was scattered, not into death, but into release. The lesser shadows simply winked out, like candles snuffed by a wind. The blast wave was psychic, but it had physical force. Everyone in the clearing was thrown to the ground. The fighting stopped. The chanting ceased. An absolute, ringing silence followed, broken only by the soft pat-pat of crumbling stone as the ancient monolith shed a skin of dust. Cassandra collapsed to her knees, empty. The world of bonds and threads was gone. She saw only the physical, the scarred clearing, the panting wolves, the stunned humans. Owen was the first to move. He crawled to her, his human form returning, covered in bloody scratches and profound exhaustion. He didn't touch her. He just knelt in front of her, his eyes searching her face. "Cassandra!" His voice was a hoarse whisper. She looked at him, really looked. She saw the alpha, the protector, the wounded man. She saw the bond between them, not as a psychic thread, but as a simple, undeniable truth in his eyes. It wasn't a claim. It was a question. Before she could answer, a weak cough sounded. Jack was pushing himself up on one elbow, his blade several feet away. He looked at the now normal clearing, at the peaceful moon, at Cassandra. His face, for a fleeting second, showed not rage, but a staggering, defeated understanding. Then the alpha mask slammed back down. "This isn't over," he rasped, but the threat was hollow, drained of its power. "It is," Owen said, not looking away from Cassandra. "For you, it is. Leave our borders. Now, the next time we meet, the challenge is to the death." His tone left no room for argument. It was the voice of an alpha who had lost too much. and found something more important to defend. The two remaining Ridgepack betas, one limping badly, slunk over to Jack. Without a word, they helped him up. Casting one last, complex look at Cassandra, a mix of yearning, hatred, and awe, Jack turned and vanished into the trees, his pack following. The tension bled from the clearing, leaving only a weary sorrow. Sienna and Evan shifted back to human form, wincing at their wounds. They looked at the spot where Cale had fallen, their faces grim. Lena emerged from the defensive line, her expression unreadable as she gazed at Cassandra. The caretaker leader approached, her form slightly translucent, flickering. She looked aged, diminished. "You did not mend the veil as we taught you," she said, her voice soft. "No," Cassandra whispered, her own voice raw. "You remade it," the male caretaker finished, his tone one of stunned respect. "Around yourself. You are not just a part of the pattern now, you are a nexus. The danger will not cease," the leader said, turning to Owen. "Others will sense her, not just wolves. The supernatural world has many hungers." Owen finally looked away from Cassandra, his jaw tight. "I know. Our offer stands," the leader said, focusing on Cassandra. "With us, you can learn control. You can understand what you are. You can be safe." Cassandra looked at the caretakers, these ancient beings who were her kin. She felt the pull of belonging, of answers. Then she looked at Owen, at Sienna and Evan and Lena, at the pack who had fought for her, feared her, and lost one of their own because of her. She felt the weight of Cale's sacrifice, a debt that could never be repaid. She stood up, her legs trembling. Owen rose with her, a silent pillar of support. "I need to understand," Cassandra said to the caretaker leader, "but not tonight, and not away from here." She took a shaky breath. "Can you stay nearby? Teach me, but let me learn here." The caretakers exchanged a long look. The leader finally nodded, a slow, accepting gesture. "The old ways are changing. Perhaps it is time. We will remain at the edges of the Blackwood. When you are ready, seek the feather on the wind. We will find you." She bowed her head, a gesture of deep respect. "Farewell, sister, until then." With a soft rustle of unseen fabric and a whisper of displaced air, the three caretakers faded from view, leaving only the scent of ozone and old parchment. Silence descended again, heavier now. The immediate threats were gone. All that remained was the aftermath and the future. Lena stepped forward, her eyes on Owen. "Alpha, the den." Owen nodded, his shoulders slumping with exhaustion and grief. "We go home, tend to the wounded, honor our fallen." His voice broke on the last word. He closed his eyes, mastering himself. When he opened them, he looked at his pack. "Cassandra comes with us." It wasn't a claim. It was a statement, and it was met with no challenge. Sienna gave a small, pained nod. Evan just looked at the ground, swallowing hard. The walk back to the Blackwood den was a somber procession. The forest, which had felt so threatening before, now felt like a shelter, a shield. The den's entrance was a welcome sight. The fire in the central chamber had been banked, but its warmth reached out to them. Cale's absence was a physical presence, a cold spot in the warm cavern. Owen stood in the center of the chamber, staring at the spot where his beta usually stood. Cassandra hung back, near the entrance alcove, feeling like an intruder on their grief. This was their loss, their family pain. She had caused it. She didn't realize she was crying until she felt the warm track of tears on her cold cheeks. A soft sob escaped her, echoing in the quiet space. Owen turned. He crossed the chamber in a few strides. He didn't embrace her. He just took her hand, his grip firm, real, anchoring her to the earth. "It wasn't your fault," he said, his voice low and fierce. "He chose. He was my beta. He protected what was mine." He paused, his thumb stroking her knuckles. "What is ours?" The words hung in the air, not a claim of possession, but one of belonging. I don't know what I am, she confessed, the tears falling freely now. I don't care, he said and meant it. You're Cassandra. You're the woman who stood against the dark and remade the light. You're the one my wolf has known since the moment I caught your scent. He brought her hand to his chest, over his heart. You're here. That's all that matters tonight. In the days that followed, a new, fragile normalcy took root. The pack grieved for Cale in their own way, a silent howl at the moon, a shared meal at his favorite spot. Cassandra stayed, a guest in the den, learning its rhythms. Lena remained wary but civil, bringing her food and clean clothes. Sienna, once healed, started showing her the safe paths through the territory. Evan, still struggling, would sometimes look at her with a confusion that was slowly softening into curiosity. And Owen was everywhere. He taught her about pack law, about the forest, about the stars as the wolves knew them. He was patient, but the intensity between them was a constant, humming current. They didn't speak of love. They didn't need to. It was in the way he always knew where she was in the den, in the way her breathing calmed when he entered a room, in the shared, quiet moments watching the sunrise from a rocky outcrop. One evening, a week after the battle, she found a single, perfect black feather resting on her sleeping pallet. She picked it up, and a sense of calm knowledge washed over her. The caretakers were waiting. She walked out of the den and found Owen standing at the tree line, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of fire and amethyst. She stood beside him, the feather held loosely in her fingers. "They're calling," she said softly. He didn't look at her. He just watched the sky. "I know. I have to go to learn to understand this nexus." He nodded, a muscle ticking in his jaw. "For how long? I don't know. But I'll come back." She said it with a certainty that surprised her. This forest, this pack, this complicated, wounded, beautiful man, it was home. The first real home she'd ever known. Finally, he turned to her. His eyes, the color of the forest shadows, held hers. "A claim made on neutral ground lasts until sunrise," he said, repeating the old law. "But this isn't neutral ground. This is Blackwood territory." He took a step closer. "And I am its alpha, so I'll make a new claim, not of protection, of belonging to me, to the pack, if you'll have it." Cassandra looked at the feather, a symbol of the unknown power in her blood. Then she looked at Owen, a symbol of a different, wilder kind of strength. She thought of the future, of lessons with ancient beings, of navigating pack politics, of a love that was as dangerous as it was destined. She let the feather go. The wind caught it, carrying it up into the darkening, stardusted sky. A promise not abandoned but deferred. She reached out and took Owen's hand, lacing her fingers with his. The connection was instant, electric, and deeply, profoundly right. Not a thread in a web, but a root in the earth. "I'll have it," she said, "and I'll have you." Under the rising moon, two figures stood hand in hand on the edge of the wild, their shadows merging into one. The forbidden love had survived the darkness. Now it was time to build something new in the light, together.